Welcome back to UCL Review, the show where we round up the biggest talking points from football's biggest competition. Joining me tonight, of course, is Dougie Critchley. Well, I'm joining you really, Dougie, because you're here every night. But Dougs, let's get straight into it, because the biggest game of the night, of course, Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea advancing to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, and their first quarter-final spot in 7 years, would you believe, by beating Atletico Madrid 2-0 at home, thanks to goals from Hakim and Ziyech and Emerson late on, securing their passage. A very straightforward passage, I would say. 3-0 on aggregate. Now, historically, the omens were good for Chelsea. They'd never been eliminated in a two-legged tie after winning the first leg away from home, progressing from all 13. That's quite a record. And their recent form, of course, was very good as well. They were unbeaten in 12 games going into this since Tuchel had taken charge, conceding just 2 goals in that time. Of course, one of them was a Rudiger own goal, and the other one was that excellent Minamino goal against Southampton. But the main issue, going into this at least, was that they'd only scored 13 goals in that time, with 6 of them coming from Mason Mount and Jorginho, who were both suspended for this game. For Atletico Madrid, meanwhile, they reverted to 4-4-2 with Carrasco and Llorente on the wings, and João Felix partnering Suarez up front. And we thought we were going to get quite a feast of attacking football from Atletico Madrid. Unfortunately, it never really materialised, which McCubs will get onto in just a bit. But in terms of the game, well, it started fairly methodically, I would say. Chelsea dominating possession, but the first talking point came after 26 minutes when Suarez played in Carrasco, ball in behind, one of the few runners in behind Chelsea all night. Azpilicueta got to the ball first, tried to place it back to Edouard Mendy, but as he did so, underhit the pass and put an arm out and blocked Carrasco in the box. And it did look like a penalty, to be totally honest. They didn't go to VAR, they didn't go check it. Peter Walton in the studio, as usual, went with what the referee called it, and the play went on. So that was a controversial moment for Atletico Madrid, and just 6 minutes later it got worse for them when an excellent breakaway from Chelsea saw Havertz flick the ball over to Werner, who showed extreme pace down the left-hand side, crossed it across goal with his weaker left foot to Ziyech, who tapped in, and Jan Oblak won't want to see that one again. Timo Werner now has more goal involvement, 17 this season, than any other Blues player. That's 10 goals and 7 assists. At half-time, it felt like, do or die really for Simeone, and he did go for it slightly with his half-time change. He took off Renan Lodi, who was having a torrid time against Reece James in that first half, and put on Hermoso, reverted to 3-5-2. But it never really materialised. They didn't have a shot in the first 20 minutes, so I think, of the second half, rather. And then Simeone rang some very bizarre changes, completely changing shape 3 or 4 times. He took off Carrasco for Moussa Dembele. That was just his 4th appearance for Atleti. He's obviously arrived with a fractured arm, I believe it was. They're missing games with COVID as well. And then he also took off Suarez for Correa. Lamar then came on for Trippier. So that was 3 of Atleti's most dangerous weapons in Carrasco, Suarez and Trippier, all off before 70 minutes. And then after 81 minutes, the key talking point really of the majority of the second half was the fact that Stefan Savic got shown a straight red card for an elbow into Rudiger from a corner. It looked very soft, but I don't really know what he's doing, why he needed to do that. There was no need for it whatsoever, but at the same time, it was definitely not a straight red card. I thought that was really, really harsh. And it got worse for Atleti, really, when Chelsea scored their second goal. 93 minutes, they broke from their own box. Emerson was played through by Pulisic, and he finished well into the bottom right-hand corner, Oblak's left, on just his 7th League and Champions League appearance this term. So this continues Thomas Tuchel's very good record in the Champions League. He's only lost 3 of his 17 home games, winning 12 and drawing 2. And his 13-match unbeaten run is a new record for a Chelsea manager at the start of their reign. So really, really impressive from Chelsea. And considering the players they were missing, in Christensen, who's been in excellent form, Mason Mount, their player of the season, Jorginho, who showed some renewed form as well. This was a really promising display from Chelsea, and the way they controlled Atleti, limited them to the very, very few chances, and completely dominated proceedings here was worrying for Atleti, but really, really pleasing from a Chelsea point of view. But McCubs, from Simeone's point of view, this continues a really, really troubling run of form.
Yeah, very much so. And, going into this game, you really would have backed them over 2 legs to get the better of Chelsea. But like you say, I think Tuchel just kind of outclassed Simeone in almost every aspect of this 2-legged tie. Continues a very troubling run of form. They started the season on fire, didn't they? They only failed to win 3 of their opening 19 league games, 2 draws and a loss. They were on for matching, the record 100 points that Barca and Real managed at the start of the last decade. But they've now dropped points in 5 of their last 8 league games, four draws and a loss. A lot of those draws have come against quite average opposition as well. And for extra context, after those first 19 games, they were 8 points ahead of Real, they were 11 ahead of Barca. Now they're only 4 ahead of Barca and 6 ahead of Real. So, serious ground has been made up in that La Liga title race, which looks to be Atleti's for the taking. And I guess now they can just focus on that. But their Champions League record against Chelsea is very poor, actually. They've now lost 4 of their games against Chelsea, more than any other side. Their away record is even worse. They've only won 2 of their last 11 away games in the competition. Really were relying on that Wanda Metropolitano form in the last few years. Suarez had a really quiet night. Obviously, he's been excellent for them in the league, but 0 dribbles, 0 key passes, 1 shot. Obviously got taken off before the end as well. He's been pretty poor in the UCL in general this term. 0 goals, 0 assists. He's only managed 1 dribble in all his appearances this term. And he's got a yellow card as well. That's one of the other significant statistics that's come out of Suarez's UCL this season. Between Koke, Llorente, Saul, João Felix and Carrasco, only 2 chances were created. Just goes to show how much of an adept defensive performance this was from Chelsea in many ways, similar to what we've seen Simeone's side do in seasons past. And for Chelsea, there are a number of top performers. Ziyech was excellent on the night. Havertz carrying on this fine run of form that he's found recently. Rudiger was also excellent, as was Zuma at the back. 4 tackles and interceptions, won 4 aerial duels and completed a dribble. Man of the match, though, without a doubt, Ngolo Kante. Very, very astute performance from him in the centre of the park. 2 interceptions, 4 dribbles, 2 key passes and completed 88% of his passes. Up next, Chelsea host Sheffield United in the FA Cup on Sunday. Atleti take on 18th placed Alaves on the same day. Surely it's time to get back to winning ways for Simeone's side. But Dougie, I was going to ask, Chelsea, after a performance like that tonight, I know Atleti are in poor form at the moment, but there are plenty of match winners in that squad, a lot of UCL experience in there. They're hardly an easy team to play against, even when they're not having the best of days. Does this performance set Chelsea up as dark horses? Because obviously Thomas Tuchel has an excellent recent record in this competition.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, obviously reaching the final with PSG last year, probably before their time, you'd probably argue in terms of the overall quality of that squad. And I feel like no one's going to want to draw Chelsea this year either. I mean, they could probably upgrade in their centre-back talent, particularly in Christensen, but then he's really come to the fore in the last few games. Kovacic was very good alongside Kante tonight. And then they do have a lot of sort of players that can create seemingly out of nothing as well. Obviously, Mount wasn't playing this game, but Ziyech had probably his best game in a Chelsea shirt. Havertz has really come into form in the last month or so as well. But I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the sort of Twitter hate going around about the rest of Europe right now. Like, we have to appreciate that the English sides this year are very good. Like, they've got 3 world-class managers in charge of them, and they spent so much more than Spain, Italy, Germany and France last summer. I think they spent 4.5 times more than German clubs last year, over twice the amount in La Liga and 3 times in Italy as well. So yeah, it's no surprise that English clubs are doing very well this year in the Champions League, but I feel like we need to stop criticising other leagues on the basis of 2-legged affairs, because we need to start appreciating what we've got in this country, which is 3 exceptional sides at the moment, and actually even more than that, because Man United are very good this year as well. So it's a great time to be an English football fan, but less of the slander against Spanish opposition would be my preference as well. But as for Chelsea, yeah, they're 100% dark horses for this competition. I put them in my top 5 favourites, along with City, Bayern, PSG and probably Liverpool sneaking in there as well. But that, guys, that's my shout. Are Chelsea dark horses for the Champions League this year? Let me know in the comments down below, and let's move on to our second game. So for our second game, we head over to Bavaria, where Bayern Munich sealed their place in the quarterfinals. No surprise there, but McCubs, what went down?
Yeah, I mean, not an awful lot, if I'm honest, Dougie. I think most people were probably tuning into the Atleti-Chelsea game because there was more riding on that, wasn't there? I was watching this game. I was kind of hoping that Bayern might put on a little bit of a show at least. But really, they did just stroll into the quarterfinals. They beat Lazio 2-1 at home, thanks to goals from Lewandowski and Choupo-Moting. It backed up their commanding 4-1 lead from the first leg, but was nowhere near as high tempo, fewer chances. All in all, it was just a kind of formality, really, from both sides. And it was always going to be a tough ask for Lazio, wasn't it? Obviously, De Roten scored 4 goals in 47 minutes in Rome. They'd won 3 games since, scoring 12 goals in the process. Back on fire again. They've opened up that 5-point gap at the top of the Bundesliga, haven't they? And they went into this game pretty strong personnel-wise as well. The only real concern for Hansi Flick was the fact he had to start Alexander Nubel in goal, just his 3rd start of the season. Kingsley Coman was also out, but that opened up the space for Serge Gnabry, who was out in the first leg, to come back in. Thomas Müller and Benjamin Pavard were also back after missing the first leg with COVID. So if anything, the Bayern side, at least outfield, was a little stronger. No disrespect, by the way, to Jamal Musiala, who absolutely bossed it in the absence of Thomas Müller in that first leg. So all looked set for a pretty comfortable Bayern victory, and that's what they got in the end. Lazio actually started the slightly brighter of the two sides. They put 3 efforts on goal in the first 15 minutes, and generally looked a bit more high energy, looked like they were going for it a little bit more. Obviously, they didn't really have anything to lose. Correa and Milinkovic-Savic carved out a couple of half chances, but after that, Bayern looked increasingly comfortable. Lazio didn't manage another shot on goal for the rest of the half. Alaba and Boateng not troubled at the back. And Kimmich and Goretzka in the midfield as well, very, very comfortable. Lewandowski then put them ahead from the spot on 33 minutes after Mariki pulled down Goretzka in the box as he went for a corner. Carries on what's an excellent run of form for Lewandowski in the competition. He's now been directly involved in 34 goals in 32 home games for Bayern in the Champions League. 29 goals and 5 assists. Obviously, he's now comfortably 3rd place, isn't he, in the all-time top scorers. Bayern really didn't have to get out of first gear in the first half or second half, but they did create a few more openings after the 60-minute mark. Choupo-Moting came on for Lewandowski on, I think, 71 minutes, and within a couple of minutes had made it 2-0, following 2 excellent passes actually from Kimmich and Alaba. Alaba by this point was kind of pushing up into the midfield and actually ended the game playing central midfield. And Bayern were just able to, take off Lewandowski with 20 minutes to go, take off a number of key players. They were able to take off Boateng at half-time and bring on Sula. Just a very ideal night for Hansi Flick to give players rest, give some players who haven't been getting minutes a few more minutes out on the pitch as well. But Lazio weren't finished. Substitute Marco Parolo then headed in a consolation at the back post from an excellent ball actually from Andres Pereira, who was also on as a sub. Bayern undone by a pretty simple set piece, if I'm honest. And that has been, if any Achilles heel they've had in the last 2 years, I think that has kind of been it, hasn't it? So that might worry Flick a little bit, even though the game was won by that point. And Parolo actually joined a pretty esteemed club with that goal, because he became the 3rd oldest player to score in the UCL knockouts at 36 years and 51 days after Ryan Giggs and Paolo Maldini. I think that's where the comparisons stop. However, Bayern, very comfortable victory. They had 59% possession, 12 shots to 5, 1.73 expected goals to 1.03 for Lazio. So not as dominant a display as they had in the first leg, but equally it didn't need to be that dominant. Ultimately, just the vast gap in quality between the two sides told it on the night. I think if Lazio had played better than they did, I don't think they would have got much more out of the tie. So it was always going to be an uphill struggle for them, wasn't it, Dukes?
Yeah, massive. I mean, Bayern have destroyed much better sides than Lazio over 2 legs in the last 18 months or so. I mean, they thrashed Spurs in the groups last year, Chelsea in the knockouts, then of course Barcelona as well in the knockouts. And it was always going to be so difficult for Lazio, as you say. I mean, no side in the history of the competition in its current format had ever progressed after losing by 3 or more goals at home in the first leg of a knockout tie. And they're also facing Bayern for the first time in European competition, and no team had ever won away at Bayern on debut at their first attempt since November 2009, when Bordeaux managed it. Since then, they've played 21, won 20 and drawn just 1. Meanwhile, Lazio's last away victory in the competition was back in September 2003. And of course, their league form hasn't been great recently. It looks like that's going to be their last Champions League campaign in potentially a little while. They've lost 2 of their 4 games since that first leg versus Bologna and Juventus, and also had a game abandoned for COVID reasons versus Torino as well. So maybe they were slightly undercooked, but I don't think, to be honest, it would have made massive difference in this one. Weirdly, Simone Inzaghi decided to leave Ciro Immobile on the bench, although the Italian striker has been in pretty terrible form. He's got no goal in his last 5 league games. He also left on the bench despite using all 5 subs, saving him for the Serie A run-in. Potentially, maybe, although, it's going to be difficult to finish in that top 4. And it meant that Vedat Mariki was given just his 2nd Champions League start of the season and his first start in any competition since the end of January. So I'm sure he enjoyed his little run out as well. Meanwhile, Stefan Radu made his 400th appearance for the club, and Joaquin Correa was the only player in the starting 11 to have scored a Champions League goal in his career. By comparison, Bayern's starting 11 had scored 161 goals combined in the competition, which just goes to show the gulf in class that simply wasn't going to be made up by. It would have been a miracle beyond all miracles, to be totally honest. In terms of key performers in this game, Kimmich, as usual, was a class above, completed all 6 of his attempted dribbles and created 4 chances, which was the most on the pitch. Alaba was also excellent, 93 completed passes, which was a game high, 2 chances and 1 assist. Lazio's best player, as it often is this season, was Milinkovic-Savic. 2 shots, 2 dribbles, 4 tackles and interceptions, 90 touches, by far the most in his team. Bayern have now reached, get this, Bayern have now reached the quarterfinals of the Champions League for the 19th time, more than any other side in the competition's history. Meanwhile, this marks the first time since 2015-16 that no Italian side has made the quarterfinals. And as I said in that first section, let's not judge the league too strongly by that, because I think Inter Milan in particular are a very good side this year. They just didn't show it in Europe. But yeah, slightly troubling for Italian sides. You feel like Atalanta in particular probably had the best chance of them all. Juventus just simply didn't turn up against Porto, but Atalanta would have hoped to have done more against Real Madrid last night, having stuck in that first leg so well for about 75 minutes with 10 men. Up next, Bayern host 18th place Stuttgart on Saturday. Lazio, meanwhile, travel to Udinese. They are 7th in Serie A, and it looks like this campaign, their first in Europe since 2007-8, might well be their only one for a while, as I said earlier. Meanwhile, we've got our quarter-finalists. They are as follows: Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool, Bayern Munich, Dortmund, FC Porto, Real Madrid and PSG. Some great names in there, obviously missing the 2 sort of juggernauts of Barcelona and Juventus. But McCubs, are you in agreement with me? Do you think it's between Man City and Bayern?
Yeah, it's hard to look past them, isn't it? I think PSG also have a shout. I think we were talking about it last week. I think Pochettino's also, excellent over 2 legs, isn't he? And I think once Neymar comes back, if he comes back, will be really key for them. I think they really go up a gear, don't they, in the Champions League when Neymar's on the pitch. So I think it's between those 3. But I do kind of agree, Chelsea have an amazing squad, one of the best squads in Europe. And with Tuchel at the helm, who's such a tactically versatile manager, I can see them going on a bit of a run if they don't get City or Bayern or perhaps PSG in the quarters. I can see them getting to the semis, if I'm honest, and then they always have a chance.
Absolutely, it's going to be absolutely fascinating. But Chelsea fans, let us know what you guys are thinking of this recovery in your season. You must be loving life right now, into the quarterfinals, into the top 4 as well, pushing Leicester City close. It's a great time to be a Chelsea fan and exciting for next year as well. But guys, let us know what you guys thought of UCL Review for this week. That's UCL Review wrapped up. I'll be back in 2 weeks' time with McCubs or Henry or anyone else from the team FD to go through the quarterfinals. Yeah, I was about to say the semi-finals, the quarter.
Get ahead of yourself, Dukes.
Yeah, exactly. Got plenty more football to come. But McCubs, if they've enjoyed this, what else should they go and watch?
Well, they should go and watch yesterday's UCL Review with Henry and yourself, Dukes, where you guys discussed the Man City game, whether they are capable of winning the quadruple. If you want to check out some other EFD content, go and check out our EFD Explained series. There's some really good stuff on there. In particular, a really good script by Henry about why West Africa produces so much talent. And I'm trying to think of other things, but it's a bit late and my brain's not really functioning properly. So yeah, just subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And yeah, just keep watching.
Good stuff. Yeah, it is 10 to 11. It's time for bed. We'll see you next time. Bye.